All right, welcome back. What we're going to do now is take this henna and make it look like a metal piece for her face. Before I start, I'm going to go ahead and merge these two henna layers here. So I'll just click on the top one and go over here to layer and select merge down. And so I have these all on one layer now. And I want to get this into a channel on the channels palette because we're going to do a couple little blurring techniques and we're going to thicken up the lines of the henna, and then we're going to make it look a little three-dimensional with a bevel by applying the lighting effects, but I'll show you that in just a moment. I want to come up here to select all, and then come over here to edit and just select copy. So we're copying the contents on this layer. I want to go back over to channels and make a new channel, and then come over here to edit, paste. And then I'll come up here to edit, fill, because what we must do now that we've pasted this channel, it becomes a selection. And we'll want to fill this selection in with white. So I'll just come over here and select white and click OK. Okay, cool. I'll come over here to select and deselect. And then what I'll do is just make a duplicate of this Alpha 1 channel by dragging it to the new channel icon right here. And that'll just make a copy of it. And then I'll come over here to Filter, Blur, and select the Gaussian Blur option. And I'll zoom in just a little bit to this henna. Let's see it just a little bit closer there. And I'll start to blur this channel. And there's a reason why we're doing this, because we're going to soften the edges of the henna, but we're also going to blur this and then use the levels adjustment to thicken up the lines in the artwork. So let me go ahead and show you. I'm going to turn up this Gaussian Blur just a little bit here. And then I'll go ahead and click OK. And then I'll come over here to Image Adjustments and select Levels. And if you look closely, this will allow me to thicken up the lines and the artwork here. Look at that. So you can see this is what it was before. And I'm just moving this white slider in to the left, but I'm also moving this black slider over to the right, and that's bringing up the darkest areas, but also enhancing the lightest areas with this white slider, and it's just overall thickening the artwork. Okay, cool. So that's looking pretty good. You can see that the lines are just a little bit thicker now, and it's a lot smoother. So I'll go ahead and click OK, and then I'll make a duplicate of this channel. And if this seems just a little bit complicated, you can just go ahead and sit back and watch me do this, and you can come back through the tutorial and stop it or pause it later on. But these are really cool techniques, and you can really create some cool stuff by doing it this way. So, and what I want to do with this copy, I want to go ahead and just go to Filter, Blur, and blur this out just a little bit, something like this. And this will allow us to create the bevel effect that we're looking for. So I'll apply a Gaussian blur, and you'll want to make those edges nice and soft, something that looks like this. And then we'll load this channel, Alpha 1 copy, by holding down the Control key, which is the Command key on the Mac, and you'll select this channel's contents, almost like selecting the transparency of a layer. And then I'll come over here to Edit, Fill, and for contents, I'll use black, and then I'll click OK. And look at that. And I'll go over here to select and deselect. And you can sort of see it's a little bit, sort of looking a little bit more dynamic now. It has a little bit of a bevel look to it. And that's exactly what we want. I want to go back to RGB. I'll go back to layers, and I can just make this invisible for now. And then I'll come over here and make a new layer. And what I'm going to do on this new layer is fill it with gray. I'm going to come over to the toolbar, and let's just select a medium gray, something like this. And then I'll go ahead and click OK. I'll select the paint bucket, and I'll click on this layer to fill it with gray. All right, next, let's come up here to Filter, Render, and select Lighting Effects. And you're going to love this part. And for light type, let's just keep that on Omni for now. And let's increase the intensity so we can see that gray layer there. And then here's the magic, folks. You see where it says Texture Channel? Go ahead and click on this menu right here and come down to the very bottom, and you'll find Alpha 1 Copy 2. This is the last channel that we created and modified in the channels palette. So I'm going to go ahead and select this, and you should see the henna appear in the preview. To make it just a little bit more visible, we can increase the intensity to something like this. But what I think I'll do is I want to create the illusion that this henna metal piece is actually curved around the front of her face. You know, sort of like a pair of glasses or something like that, where they're curved just a little bit to form to the face. And so in this case, what we can do is set the light on the left side of the henna, making this side of the henna brighter than the other side. And that will create more of a rounded type look. I can come back to that in just a minute, but what I want to do now is set the color for this lighting effects, because I want the metal piece to have somewhat of a gold type look to it. I don't really want a gray beveled metal henna piece. So to start off, what we can do is change the color of the lights inside the lighting effects. So you can see that we have the light type selected here, which is Omni. Well, it's set to white right now, and we know this because if you look right here, this is the color of the light. So what we can do to create that gold look is we can click on this square, bring up the color picker, and I want to select an orange color, nice bright orange color, something like this, and I'll go ahead and click OK, and we can start to see that gold look starting to work there. And I'll increase the intensity just a little bit, so I can bring more yellow into that light. Look at that. Now come down to the properties and you'll find the gloss setting right here. Make sure this is set all the way to shiny, and that'll help you in achieving the best metal look possible. And right here where it says material, well, let's turn that all the way up to metallic. Okay? And then I'll go ahead and adjust the intensity just a little bit more. And we can go ahead and click OK right now to see how this looks, but I'm going to move this over just a little bit because I want this side of the henna brighter than this side. And we can try this out. I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and let's see how this looks. Okay, not bad. It's very close to what I'm looking for. But I can undo that and come back up here to Filter, Render, and select Line Effects, and pretty much work right where I left off before. That's one of the cool things, is that it saves the last spot that you were before. But I'm going to come in here in the intensity and turn that up just a little bit more and move this over. And let's go ahead and click OK. Well, that's looking pretty good. And so I think I like that. And what we need to do now is get rid of this background so we just see the beveled henna. Well, that's pretty easy to do. I can just come over here to the Channels palette and come down here to Alpha 1 Copy, this one right here. So let's just hold down the Control key on the keyboard, which is the Command key on the Mac, and I'll click on Alpha 1 Copy to load this channel as a selection. And if I go back to RGB, you can see that the henna is now selected from this channel. You see that? So we can go back to the Layers palette and then come up here to Select, Inverse, and then I can press the Delete key on the keyboard to remove the background. Look at that. And then I'll just come up here to Select and Deselect. Then I'll just select the Move tool on the toolbar, and I'll hold down the Shift key if I need to, and I'll just move this up and move this over to position it right in the middle. It's just a little bit off because we use the lighting effects, but it's no big deal. I can just get the Move tool and we can reposition this just like so. Now let's add just a little bit of a drop shadow behind this henna. This is pretty easy to do. All I have to do is come up here to Layer, Layer Style, and select Drop Shadow. And I'll just adjust this like so. I'm just going to come in here and add a very slight shadow behind here, but I want that nice and soft there. And I'll go ahead and just zoom in here so we can see this just a little bit closer. And you can see this is before and this is after. I'll go ahead and click OK. Okay, great. Now let's apply the texture to this henna.